Okay, I have I guess I have 2 more podcasts in me for this day because I made, so far, I don't even know, 4 podcasts already? I mean, you wouldn't know. I mean, I guess maybe you would, but, because this is coming out, weeks. So even though I just made that last podcast, literally a second ago, or finished making the podcast literally a second ago, for you, that was a week ago. But still, I think this podcast might be coming out in technically in October, November, something crazy like that. Which is crazy because that means when I'm re-listening to this, because, I really listen to my podcast, of course, when it comes out, got to be that first listener. I will be fully in Hong Kong, not even just been there. I will be, probably used to stuff, YouTube videos have already been filled with, advice and all that. I can be like, oh yeah, I just went to the Golden Kowloon Park yesterday, and I was just hanging out there, or as usual, because I know where it is, and, stuff like that. Kind of crazy how time technically moves forward, even though for me, it did not at all, because this was just a couple minutes ago when I finished that last podcast, which is only a couple minutes ago when I finished that last podcast. Which was only a couple minutes ago before I finished that last podcast and whatever. But still, that was completely irrelevant to what I wanted to talk about. What I do want to talk about is charity. And, charity is a nice idea, but I don't think it's a good one. And there's all the controversy already. Oh, how dare you? The charity, it helps people. It helps people. And you just don't like it because it helps people. It's does it though? Does it though? It seems like charity is there are 2 things charity does. First one, it just puts a bandage over the infection. It's that wound is still infected. You just put a Band-Aid over it. You didn't fix it or anything. It's going to get worse under the Band-Aid. But you put a little Band-Aid on it again. Oh yeah, thank you for the Band-Aid. It looks like you're helping, but it's not doing anything. It's not changing the problem. You're going to have to keep putting on Band-Aids because once the blood freaking soaks up the freaking bandage and the wound oozes over the bandage, then you got to take off the bandage and put on a new bandage. And then when that blood and pus and freaking ooze gunks all over that bandage, then you got to take off that bandage and put it on again. And then the second thing, it seems like it is just a way for a rich person to get people off their back. So I'm going to go on the first point. The whole putting a bandage over an infected wound. Because let's say, for example, a food drive. Perfect. All well and good. Some people really do need, help with if they can't if they don't have enough money to buy food or whatever, that could be very, very helpful. Or if they're homeless and, you're giving food out to the homeless. That is such a good, thing for those people. But it's not solving the actual issue. It seems like all this money is being spent. Let's just say if we collected all these food drives and charities and whatever specifically for food, giving food out to the needy. Let's just say that's probably in the freaking billions, not even in the billions, multi-billions. Well, okay, in the billions. I don't know. I'm not going to put it super exaggerated. Let's just say it's in the billions every year, collectively, just for the US. It's in the billions every year. Every year, how many $1 billion it's, put in to different places. And, after a decade, that could be in, collectively in the how many multi-billions. But I'm that money, you're like I said, putting the bandage over the wound. You keep putting more and more money into just putting the bandage on. But you're not realizing that there's an infection that could be, fixed. Maybe you poured some alcohol on it or whatever, put whatever that stuff that deals with infections on it. You're not buying that stuff because let's say that's too difficult to get to. You just have a bunch of Band-Aids, so you rather just put the bandage on. And that, it solves the issue for a couple seconds, but then, or say for a day, and then the ooze and whatever, that example. So I'm let's say the food drive. It's if people keep coming to this food drive every year, every month or whatever, that tells you that this problem, that you're putting money into or whatever, all this money into, is not being solved. There's forever, say you keep doing this thing forever and ever and ever and ever. It's these people will keep being homeless or keep needing food forever and ever and ever. It's like, why isn't there more, say, charities to actually like legit solve the problem? Because it's like, if they're, let's say in Chicago or something, let's say you're in Chicago and there's a huge homeless population. I don't know for real if there is, but I'm just using Chicago as an example. And there's a huge homeless population. And every year, it increases by 2,000 people. And, people want to help. They want to help because they're more fortunate and they want to help the people. So they put the money in the food drive from the kindness of their heart. So you can't, I'm not blaming the people who pay, of course, because most of the people who pay charity are, the normal citizens. And, it's not their fault that the charities themselves don't really change anything. But when I'm saying specifically for the charities, not for the people paying, but for the charities, they're just elongating the inevitable, if that makes sense. Like they're not changing what is actually needed. Like when you're paying for a charity, you're hoping that, the charity will help change what is happening. Like if you pay for a charity to feed the hungry, you're hoping that, they're fed and then, they're not hungry anymore, But, a lot of these charities, it's kind of like, you put a bandage over just for it to fall off. So then the next year you get more money in. So then you put another bandage on. And it seems backwards to me. I'm sure it seems backwards for a lot of other people, but, just want to say it out loud. That seems backwards. And let's say another example. Let's say, and, a pretty big one, say Africa. There's all these charities or whatever for Africa. It's like Africa is just as busted as it always been. And I'm not saying that Africa itself is busted, but I mean, like, they're doing all this stuff like, oh, let's do charity for Africa to help, say with malaria or whatever. And I'm like, nothing changed. They've been doing these charities for like 30, 40 years and literally nothing has changed. It seems like all that's changed is that, maybe some rich people got richer. Let's say with, charities for, let's just say, breast cancer. Allow them, nothing changed. Like a lot of the money doesn't go into actually changing the problem. It's for giving awareness to the problem. And it's like, what? Like we are aware, like most people are aware that breast cancer is a thing. Everyone knows the pink ribbon. We don't need any more awareness. Now we need actual solution. Like the awareness is at its peak. Like, oh man, we got to make sure every single person in the US knows about breast cancer. It's like, no, not anymore. Now it'd be better if that all that money was actually for actual research. But no, you know why? Because remember what I said, the whole big bait that charity is a lot of the time, it seems like it is like the normal people pay all this money to a charity. 99.9 whatever percent of the profit goes into keeping the business running. So what's keeping the business running? Paying the employees, paying the CEO or whoever is the founder or whatever of this charity, to keep the business running. And then they have that little tiny percent for everything else. So let's say for the Africa study or whatever, or, they have 90%, 95% going to keeping the business running, which is, of course, marketing. They got to get the marketing dollars. So then people will pay more. They got to pay the CEO. They got to pay the workers who are the market, for all this. And then the tiny little drop, little pinch sprinkle is for, what the charity was for in the first place. Now, there are some charities that are good. I hope, there are some charities that I think are hopefully good, but it seems like a lot of them are that same thing, where it's the little sprinkle. And I'm like, it seems like we're spending all this money for nothing to change. So I'm like, I'm sure the people appreciate, but I'm like, I bet you, I don't know. Again, this is all just from, my grain of little salt. But I'm like, it just seems like if I went to interview these people, like, how do you feel about these people, helping you guys out? And I bet you, well, yeah, I mean, it's nice, but, nothing changed. It's the same as it always been. It's not like these people are, now living the high life because these charities are around. No, it's just like, it's the bandage. It's the little bandage over the infected wound. No one wants to buy the Neosporin. No one wants to help get the alcohol or whatever. Everyone just wants to put on the Band-Aid. Or even better, just say it's a charity when you're making a bunch of actual profits. You're saying it's a nonprofit, But the nonprofit is just that the charity itself is not making a profit because they are purposely doing the finances. So then, they're keeping the business running just by the bare minimum. And that by the bare minimum is making sure, all the chair people are paid well. Got to make sure all the everything is spent for marketing, and then the little pinch for the actual problem. But that's just my 2 cents. I have one more cent to give, though, is that the other thing, say with the wealthy, the rich, who say, oh yeah, we did this for charity. It's like, can you imagine if let's say you had $100 and you gave $2 for charity? Like, that's basically what that equivalent is. Because there's let's say Jeff Bezos, he'll be like, yeah, I gave 12 million for charity. Yeah. It's like, what? But that's such a small percentage of your money that you gave to charity. Such a small percentage. You can do 100 million, and that's still such a small percentage. Everyone, go on your calculators right now. Go ahead, click 100 billion. Make sure you get all the zeros. 100 billion. He's richer than that, but let's just give it a fair little small money. Do 100 billion times 0.2. 20% of his money. See how big that is. Now, after you're shocked by how big that is. Now, let's just say, 20% is a lot of money. That's a lot of money to lose. Let's do 100 billion times 0.005. Now, you see how big that is. Now, that would be a fair amount. If he said he gave this much to charity every whatever, you're like, okay, dang, he's giving 5% away. That's a lot of money. But you never see that type of numbers. But still. Now, I want you to do 100 million divided by 100 billion. And tell me what that number says. Times it by 100, of course. So you can see the percentage of what it was. And after you're shocked by how small of a percentage that is, then come back to me and be like, oh, these people are really giving away nothing. Now, you could do that with, all these other net worths of how much money. And you'll see these rich people are giving a less percentage of their own wealth than the poor's or whatever the normies are. Because to them, everyone else is the poor's. You can be a millionaire and you're still the poor's because they're at a different echelon of rich. So you see, regular people are giving more percentage of their money away than the rich are, but it just looks bigger. These numbers look big to us because we're not rich. Them giving $100,000, that's less than a penny to them. That's like, giving away, a free skin cell to these people. But, to us, when they're like, yeah, I just gave them $100,000 just today. Here, $100,000. Here you go. That's like, it looks big, but that's literally nothing. That's literally nothing. So little. So the whole point, basically, which I personally think was the point of charity to begin with, was just to, get the poor's, the normies off of their back. Where they're like, hey, you're kind of hoarding all this wealth for yourself and just spending it. And then the little bit of wealth that you do spend, you just kind of do it lavishly just to do it. They're like, okay, yeah, you know what? You're right. I'll give 2 million to charity, $2 million to any of your favorite charities, and we'll make it a reality show off of it. We'll make a reality show where we make $100 million from the reality show. But if you guys win, we'll give $200,000 to your favorite charity. It's like, it's such a bait just to get people off their back. So you're like, oh, they're still doing good things. They're giving $2 million to charity, when you don't realize that that's such a little percentage of their money, but it just looks like a big number, but it's such a little percentage of their money. Or when, say, Apple, or these companies that are even a different level where they're like worth how many $1 trillion, and they're like, yeah, we're going to give $3 million to the Make Kids Code campaign. And then not only that, the Make Kid Code campaign, which is ironic, even though, say, it's a big amount of money, in one batch, even though it's such a small percentage of, how much wealth, say, Apple or Google or whatever makes. But still, once they do it, then say whatever charity, how much percent of their money is just to keep the business running. And then everything else, they do the little sprinkle to let them, do what the whole point of the charity was in the first place. So I'm like, such a big waste. It seems like we're just running around in circles, doing nothing. We're just doing an endless cycle of just giving away money just for free, where the regular people are giving away more money than the rich people are for free, just to have like, just a pat on the back. We feel good after we give the money away. Maybe the normal people, the normies, they really want to make a difference. They want to see the world change and they want to have an impact on it. So, they give a bigger percentage of their money away to charity than these rich people. And then nothing changes. They just gave free money away. It just seems crazy. And I know this is going to be controversial because people don't like hearing about that. They don't like hearing like, oh, this person just said charity is a waste of time. I'm like, yeah, but it is. It really is. Tell me a charity that doesn't exist anymore because they solved the problem. I'll wait. Every single charity still exists. Why? Because they didn't solve the problem. Because it's a problem that they're not trying to solve. Because it is more profitable, ironically, to do a nonprofit organization that keeps the business running and it gives a little sprinkle of mess to the actual problem than it is to actually solve it. And then the ones, let's say there are a couple that do actually try to solve the problem. They're not making money. Why? Because let's say they don't have that marketing budget. They don't have the chairwoman or chairman who is, doing all the finances. So then they can make a lot of money. So then they got to, figure out how to get people to keep spending. So it's like, ironically, it's a lose-lose situation. You lose if you give it to the ones who don't solve the problem because they're just going to spend the money for themselves or just give a little sprinkle of the money to the actual problem. But then if you give it to the ones that do actually want to make a change and do give a large portion of the money to actually solve the problem, it's like, they don't have enough money to keep it going. So they're either going to change to that type of threshold or they're just, going to fall flat after a while. And it's a hard little thing to recognize that it's a waste of time. But, I guess you could argue the same with politics, which I might say soon, where nothing really changes. It's going to need literally the moment something changes for real, it will be a huge paradigm. But how it is now, it'll be 30 years from now. And these same charities will be doing the same thing. Oh, we gotta have a awareness for breast cancer. Remember, pink ribbons, everyone. And then there's not gonna be any difference. But that is the controversial podcast of the season, I guess. Because I know this one's gonna get flack because people, which sucks, because the normies, I keep saying the normies because, we're a different echelon. The poors, I call us the poors because we are different. We are completely different. Like even say a millionaire, someone who's a nice mansion, they're a different level from the multi-millionaires who are a different level from the 100 millionaires who are a different level completely from the billionaires. But still, the poors, they do want to make a difference. They do. They put more of their money into charity than the rich, but they're the ones who, get invaded the most. Because I bet you the rich, they know for a fact that this is a small amount of their money. They know for a fact that, these charities aren't not doing that much, or at least not giving that much of their most of their money. The little bit of money that they're giving, most of the money is going to keep in the business running. But hopefully at some point things will change. But it won't change from the things that are now. It'll have to be some new charity. And remember, I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying a lot of them. I wouldn't doubt it's a majority. I wouldn't doubt if it's a fair majority, just from the fact that the problems are still there. But that's about it. And that is the end of Controversial Podcast.